Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Process podcast. It is so great to be back with you on this episode of the podcast. My name is Teresa McCloy. I love hosting this podcast where we talk about all things in your real life, real self, and real work. And on this particular episode, we are actually going to kick off a series. I haven't done a series on the podcast in a while, and I want to spend at least the next 3 weeks, possibly 4, talking about a tool that we love here at the Real Life Process. And that is the tool of the Enneagram. Now, if you're not familiar with the Enneagram, let me introduce it to you. We'll dive into it in this podcast episode. But before we do, I want to share just a couple of things with you that we have coming up here at the Real Life Process. We are about a week away as I record this episode. We're about a week away from starting off our new Fast Start certification program. We'll kick that off on April 17th. So it is not too late. This is a 6-week Fast Start certification program to get you certified as a coach, as a speaker, as a trainer, as an organizational leader to use this content in the work that you're already doing. So you may be already speaking and training, but you need some workshop material or some retreat material, or you're already a coach and you're doing some of those things and you want to bring this work alongside what you're doing, or you're a leader within a church or within a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, and you know that the content of the Real Life Process would be a great tool for you to use in personal and self-development within your organization. So I just want you to know about that Fast Start program. It's just 6 weeks from April 17th through May the 22nd here in 2023. It will get you certified. It will get you all the content. Reach out to me. Just email me, Teresa@thereallifeprocess.com. You can find that link in the show notes and let me know that you're interested and I'll get you all the information. You can find out more about our certification on our website, but because we're so close to that kicking off, it might be best if you just send me an email. But I wanted you to know that's coming up. So now let's dive into these next few weeks, just settling into some conversation about the tool of the Enneagram. And you might say, why? Well, it is a really, really foundational piece of some of what we call the pre-work that we do in introducing clients to the process. Now, does it have to be used with the Real Life Process? Absolutely not. We have a lot of people that use our content or use the Real Life Process who have been through the Real Life Process and use many other personality tools. But one that has been impactful in my life is the tool of the Enneagram. And I haven't talked about it a whole lot on the podcast in the recent year or so. I actually started the podcast and it was called The Enneagram in Your Real Life. And I talked all about the Enneagram for about 1.5 years. And you can go back and listen to those early episodes if you want to dive back into the Enneagram. Or if you just want to stay right here and start fresh, we will start fresh diving into some things. It's been a journey for me with this tool. I have gone from all in and been in that stage of just learning early on because it was so impactful for discovering who I was and kind of why I did some of the things that I did and the behaviors that I had. So it was transformational for me. I was even part of the International Enneagram Board for a few years. I was all in. And then as my work and my calling kind of shifted and changed into the content I was creating, and while I was writing the book that we just recently released in November, I kind of set the Enneagram aside. And I felt like a little bit maybe that I'd been there and done that. And in the recent probably 6 to 9 months, it has resurfaced for me. One of the reasons is because I began reading a new book by my friend Marilyn Vansel. Actually had Marilyn on the podcast within the first of this year, within 2023. We'll put that link in the show notes. But I had Marilyn on the podcast to talk about her new book, Beyond the Enneagram. We're reading through that book in our community, and it is a transformational book for me. It is making me go deeper into a process that she has called the drawing. And I'm really re-engaging with the tool of the Enneagram. I talk about the Enneagram and the tool in my book as well. And so let me dive in and just give you a little bit of an intro to the Enneagram if you're not familiar with what the tool is. And I want to say it is only a tool. It is not scripture. It is not something that you have to know or learn. But like many other tools, it is something that might be an invitation for you as a lens to look through in your personal growth, your spiritual growth, your personal development. So the Enneagram really is both a psychological and spiritual system. And what it gives us is a knowledge and understanding about behavior and what motivates us. In some patterns, Marilyn Vansel talks about in her book, and she uses this language, and this is the same language we use here at the process, is some behaviors that we have come from a very authentic place in us. And these patterns really can be some of our greatest strengths. But then what happens is over time, when we're that newborn baby, when we're that young little one, we have this very fresh system inside of us. And then over time, we adapt. We adapt to our environment and our surroundings and our relationships. And these adaptive behaviors over time become what kind of motivates us. Usually through three lenses, either fear or shame or anger. What the Enneagram does for us is help us identify kind of how we're doing that. And the method that they use, the system that they use, is something called personality types. And they're in Enneagram language, there are 9 personality types. Now, don't let that particular number trip you up of, oh my gosh, there's only 9 people in the world. That is not true. Absolutely not. We have a little bit of each of these 9 things in us, each of these ways of seeing the world in us, but there is usually one that we operate more through that lens, through that path. And that's where kind of our adaptive and authentic behaviors live. And it's how we think, how we feel, how we act and react through that lens. So how would the Enneagram benefit you? Well, the benefits of using this tool is when we take off kind of that distorted lens, that distorted pair of glasses that we've been looking through. And we begin to discover, oh my gosh, I have such an automatic response. I always think this way or feel this way or behave this way. Those patterns of behavior, we can become more aware of them and then see how those responses impact the quality of life that we live as we interact both personally and professionally, both in our life and in our work. And this clarity gives us an awareness then that we can make a different choice. We're not on automatic mode anymore. We're actually pausing, taking a breath and saying, oh, that's what I would automatically do. But is that the best self? Is that the best version of me to respond through that lens? What if I paused? What if I thought about it? What if I processed my emotion differently? What if I acted differently or reacted differently? Now, instead of just seeing through this narrow lens, our prescription can change, just like we adjust our glasses. Now we can have a clearer vision of our real self and how we can live into that real life that God has given us. So during those childhood years, during those early years, we learn to adapt. Things happen to us. We have life experiences, and that molds and forms and shapes our ego through nature, the gene pool we were given, through nurture, those that nurtured into our life, and through our own free will choices. We live into these different things, and we form and we become formed. So the Enneagram gives us language. That's one of the things I love about it the most, is it just gives us language to say, oh, now I have a better understanding of myself. So many times over the years, I've been using the Enneagram since probably about 2010. I know at least 10, maybe 12 years. And so many times as I'm walking with clients through discovering kind of how they are in the world through this tool, there will be tears that are shed of like, gosh, I can't believe that that's me. That's exactly me. Somebody has given me language to how I feel, to how I think, to my reactions in the world, or why I'm not showing up as my true self. It's in me. It's in the internal part of myself, but I didn't know how to bring it out into the world in a healthy way. So that so many times is what the Enneagram is helping to do, is just give language to our head center, our heart center, and our body center. For me personally, I was very, very dismissed or removed from my body center. I just recorded a podcast last week about self-care, and I was very removed from taking care of self because I'm a heart-centered person. Because I actually am a type 3 on the Enneagram, I thought it was all about the doing, the more doing. Hence led, and I talk about it in my book, Do What Matters. Live from rest, not rush. It was all about the doing for me, the workaholic, get it done behavior. And now that I'm aware of that, I'm aware of my very forward moving energy to always be there. And the Enneagram has helped me find that awareness. Now I can live differently and I can invite myself to the peaceful part. And for me, that peaceful part is going to what I call my type 9, my body space. That's peace. Saying, oh, thank you, God, for the invitation to peace. Instead of always being effective and efficient and driving, can I sit in your peace? Can I be invited there? And so over the next few weeks, I want to explore this tool. I want to explore the lovingness of the 2, the effectiveness of the 3, the originality and creativity of the 4, the wisdom of the 5, the loyalty and faithfulness of the beautiful 6, the joy of the 7, the power of the 8, and the peace of the 9. As you hear those words, I hope that it's like, wow, what beautiful words. Love, joy, peace, power, wisdom, creativity, effectiveness. They're all just a small part of describing for me in my faith journey who God is. And the beauty of that is I feel like I get to show up with all of those things. As Marilyn Vansell talks in her book, that I can be drawn into the center of that, of who God is. And the Enneagram gives me some path and some language. It's not the only thing that does by any means, but it's a tool that I can use in my life to say, how do I engage all of me? Love the Lord with my heart, my soul, my strength. How do I lean in deeply into those places? There are some great, wonderful resources out there with the Enneagram. One of my favorite is one of my dear friends, Claire Lowridge and Scott Lowridge and the Calhouns that wrote a book together of moving through the Enneagram in this harmony model. We'll have the link to Spiritual Rhythms of the Enneagram in our show notes. Marilyn Vancel's book that I just mentioned, those are wonderful tools about discovering more into the Enneagram, looking through this different lens. Scott and Claire and Doug and Adele talk in their book about the harmony triad, that I'm connected to all three of these centers. Again, as I said, that was huge for me to say that I have the loyalty and faithfulness of the 6. That was something that was kind of broken for me in my early years in my childhood. And so I had to reconnect with that. Part of my nurturing part was, trust was broken for me, not through my parents, but through some other experiences that I had. And so I had to learn to reconnect that. I didn't really discover that until I discovered the tool of the Enneagram and was like, why do I have this little bit of doubt of trusting people and making friendships be long-term? I always laugh and say, it's a miracle that I've been married for almost 41 years because I didn't used to do long-term relationships and long-term friendships. And now I'm reconnecting back in with friends that I had in high school and friends that I had in earlier places in my life because I see that loyalty and faithfulness that God is inviting me to. So the tool of the Enneagram is something here at the Real Life Process that we use. It's one of the things that we teach others to do is use this tool. It's one of the assessments that we talk about, whether we're working with clients individually as we coach with them or whether we're using the tool all by itself. But it's a beginning step many times in walking someone into their real self, discovering their needs, their values, what God has put in them, discovering through this tool of the Enneagram how they can go a little bit deeper and start to reconnect some dots in their story, along with life maps that you've heard us talk about. We have so many tools here at the process that we love to uphold. And the Enneagram is one of them. So I hope you'll join me in the next few episodes here on the podcast as we dive a little bit deeper into these 3 centers of intelligence, your head, your heart, and your body. And we just have some new conversations around the Enneagram. I'm going to invite some people into this series as guests here as well. And we hope you'll join us on a little bit of an Enneagram journey over the next 3 or 4 weeks as we dive in. It's been such an impactful tool for me. And I would love to hear from you. If you're listening to this podcast and the Enneagram is something that's been a tool for you, join us over in our Facebook community. And we'll have some posts there where we'll engage with you. We'll be doing some lives over there. Lindsay and I will, talking about this tool. And we would love to have you join us and engage with us there as well as you tell us your journey with the Enneagram. I know sometimes it can be controversial. I don't want to go there. I really want to show you the beauty of this tool when you go beyond the Enneagram into the work that it's inviting you to, not getting hung up on the Enneagram, but into the work that it's inviting you to, into the journey that you can have with the tool. So join us over there and let's have some conversation and discussion about our head, our heart, our body, how God has designed us in those 3 wonderful centers through the lens of the Enneagram. I know when I discovered this tool and when I started using it in my work, it really helped me see through some different lenses. And it really helped me discover that every ordinary day does have an extraordinary moment in it. If I just pause long enough, leaned into my 9 of peace and beauty and seeing what God had, that it could open up. It was a beautiful thing. So I invite you to that as well, because every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. Hope you'll join us back next week as we explore the tool of the Enneagram. Have a great week, everyone.